that I think everybody's going to really enjoy, and it's going to just shed another unique insight onto the film and the world in which we live today. So basically, here's part 2.
Yeah, and we're going to do part 2, and I'm glad that you mentioned that because this is a long breakdown of the movie, and some people said 2 hours is a long time. It's a long time to invest psychologically in this, and I would personally understand if you want to listen to this into 2 parts, no problem. And in part 2, we're picking up where we left off, where at this giant gathering where Reeve Bobs, which is a knockoff of Steve Jobs, is assassinated after launching a new product where you can drink people. You can drink Robin Wright as a substance versus just seeing her on the screen. You can do that, and they're in this animated world. That she's in the animated zone. There are people who don't agree with this progression. They're called the Rebels, and they just launch an attack. Not only do they assassinate Reeve Bobs, but they send in what we've been unfortunately been doing to our own planet. We've been destroying it. Here they're showing an inversion. They show mechanical bees that are trying to poison everybody. When we've been doing that to the entire, what's it called? Sudden collapse, colony collapse. It's a legitimate scientific term where we may lose one of our most precious fellow creatures on Earth, the ones that pollinate all our fruits and majority of our fruits and vegetables. We've been destroying them with pesticides, and so here in this movie, it's symbolic. They're showing it's the opposite, where we're being poisoned by them. And she's trying to escape all this with a man who's taking her away, and she sees her daughter for a second, but she never has a chance to speak her. She's with the rebels who's attacking, and finally she gets rescued by Jeff Green, who comes out of nowhere. But in reality, it was just a hallucination, and she's waking up, and she's like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "Well, I'm Dylan Trueliner." Interesting is True Liner. And says, "I'm the animator, and I'm the head of the Robin Wright department at Miramel." And she's like, "Well, did any of you think about me the whole time after I sold myself?" And he says, "Well, I was obsessed with you for years, and I was afraid they'd take you away from me." Again, the same thing as her agent, preying on her. And he did a lot of research on her, and because he was the head animator of the Robin Wright, another movie came out that he did research, and it's strange. It's a strange scene. Again, this is all a hallucination. Remember, this is difficult to follow because if someone is hallucinating, they're not all there. Everything's broken up and everything is discombobulated. So this is why it's so strange, this animated segment. Now, you know about the movie Dr. Strangelove, right, Adam?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So here's like a knockoff of it. Is there anything you want to say where, she's cast into this movie and she's going to supposedly take care of business because they can't drop the bomb on whoever is in this movie that she's been put in by the Dylan Trueliner? She drops on the bomb, and it's about this movie and off of this scene. Wow. And she's still hallucinating. She wakes up all over again. What is going on here? Where is everybody? And again, here comes Jeff Green again. Remember, all these scenes are hallucinations. She falls asleep. She has an experience, wakes up, goes into another story that doesn't make sense, and wakes up again. And so everybody is hallucinated to freedom, and you made a mistake again. And tells her, "Hey, look, we have no choice. How do you like it?" She says, "I want a bullet to the head." And then poof, she's executed, and she wakes up again. Again, this is all the hallucination.
It's just like some fairly traumatizing stuff. What happens? You notice that even though this is supposed to be some kind of magical world where you can take the chemicals and you can be Robin Wright, and there's some kind of utopia. Well, no, it's a police tyranny run by the corporations, and they'll just straight up shoot you in the head and dump your body in the river if they don't want you around anymore.
That's right. You know, if I had to sum it up in a couple sentences, fascism is the business model of the United Nations and the Vatican. Okay? And it's the merging of, it's like the business model, business relationship between corporations and the state working together, and then and that's like corporate communism. But for the regular folk, the people at the bottom, me and you and everybody else, they don't want us to have that business model. It doesn't work. We're not large corporations and states, but they want us to feed the corporations. So they give us communism, socialism, democratic socialism, all these socialists and social that. And so they give communism for the regular human being, the man, woman, and child, but the UN uses fascism, and that's corporate communism. And she's continually falling asleep, waking up, different hallucinations. She's not sure what's happening.
Right. Well, you will notice that the bed frame that has a circle and a triangle on it.
Oh, yeah.
Although I think the triangle's facing the wrong way. But anyways, it's sort of like a male-female symbology. But yeah, the triangle's facing the wrong way. But I don't know. Things pop out, and I just wonder if there's something to it. But look at this scene. You have so much colors, textures. Look at that carpet. The animation in this movie is beyond excellent. It's some of the best frame by frame cell animation I've ever seen. And those dissidents, if you will, that are running around, and they've got their like strange looking tanks with faces on them, and the bees are flying around. Totally reminds me of Wizards, Fire and Ice. It has Ralph Bakshi written all over it. And I think that's fantastic. You know, I am a huge fan of Ralph Bakshi, and I love this movie for them taking the risk and the chance to make this all animated and just go crazy with it, because it turned out beautiful. Yet at the same time, they were able to create scenes of disassociating, sort of like trauma-based mind control. It's just an incredible job. And look at this scene. But at this point in the movie, just like listening to this podcast, you know, you might be a little bit fatigued, because I sure was. And I'm like, man, do I have to turn this off again and come back and watch it again later? And it doesn't get any better per se. It just continues to get more trippy, and you know, she's hallucinating, she's dying, she's back alive the next second. We at this point where are we? You know, really trippy, and there's so many different places you could be. Trying to decipher this is very challenging.
It is. It really is. And, you know, the reason why we're both explaining that this is a hallucination and it's not a regular flow of thinking, because when people take drugs, your thought processes are interfered and interrupted. You can't have a regular flow. If you're drunk, or if you're high, or if you're taking illicit drugs, or even prescription drugs, they even tell you, don't drive a vehicle if you take this, don't do this, don't do that, because it's interfering with your consciousness. It's altering your consciousnesses. And when you have psychological trauma-based mind control layered with pharmaceutical manipulation, and then you have the hallucination, of course the second half of this movie is extremely difficult to follow. It's almost, in some cases, I didn't like it. I dropped it after I had to wait a couple years and then watch it again and get through it. And then it finally started to make sense. So here she is. She's waking up again. She was frozen for 70 years. Then she wakes up here, and then all of a sudden Dylan Trueliner's there. He says, I've been waiting for you, and I'm here to take you out to the big city. And so finally he takes her out to the big city, and Robin's explaining in the movie that New York is now a city of suspended gardens that reach the sky. Interesting that Egyptian. Who is that again, Adam?
Oh, geez, I'm not too sure. Maybe? What is it, like a falcon, half human, half falcon, or something?
Yeah, there are different Egyptian gods that have a head, and so
yes,
you know, this movie, it lasts for 2 seconds or half a second. It's hard to
Hmm.
pick up on all these things. But Egyptian mythological stuff, Freemasonry is huge into Egyptian stuff. The Illuminati is into it. The back of the dollar bill has an Egyptian pyramid. $1 bill has an Egyptian pyramid as part of the U.S. seal on the dollar with a pyramid with an all-seeing eye in it. So Egyptology, the esoteric, all this stuff that's hermetic and all, it's all layered into this movie, into the characters that we just quickly overlook. And then
Well,
he's explained to her in this new New York City that there's no more ego, that thanks to chemistry we've been redeemed. There's no war and there's no fighting and there's no frustration. And then he takes her to another part of the city. He says, this street holds the wisdom of 1,000 years. And you can see all the organized religions are there.
right. You know what, though? I think we missed the photo of the Pope.
Oh, goodness. Yes, there is a scene. Unfortunately, we don't have it in there, but Adam
Yeah,
showed it to me, and I'm going to have to claim
I have it.
responsibility. He pointed out a scene where in this city where the Pope is in there.
I have it. I can show it right now.
Yeah.
Here it
Yeah, let's
is.
do it.
Yeah. So here it is here. It's just right around this time we're at and on the presentation, but it's these characters but right in the middle you can see there's a Pope character. So, whatever, it's a Pope, but I mean, we're talking about the Vatican and the Pope, and so, well, we're not, they're not missing a beat here. They're following along with us.
Got that right. So let me know when you got back to this.
Yeah, you're back up there. Yeah.
Okay, great. I really appreciate you bringing that up, Adam, because again, great catch. In-depth, high-level perception. And here's another thing that you brought up that I didn't think about, that you brought to my attention: the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. And this might be a sort of like a synopsis of possibly a link to this kind of
Yes.
mythology.
Yep. I think
What
so.
about this?
Yeah. So, again, this animation style is so rich and vibrant. It's like lucid, trippy. It sort of looks like Ralph Bakshi's work. Maybe it's the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, but also, Hieronymus Bosch kind of comes to mind, where you have these half animals, half human chimeras, people fornicating, strange environments and cities that are very surreal. I think Hieronymus Bosch was inspired a lot of the work that was done here.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, that's incredible. That's an incredible feat. He was one of the most famous, incredible artists in history because of his, bizarreness. And if you came to me and said, Adam, I want to make a movie, I need some animation. Oh, okay. What style of animation are you looking for? Oh, Hieronymus Bosch. Yeah, okay. So you're not asking for something simple then, are you? You're asking for the most complex possible art that I can possibly make. Okay. So that's how far they went with this movie,
Big time. When I looked at it, I said, my gosh, he was born in 1450? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing is you're looking at this movie, The Congress, you're accessing the most brilliant minds, the most brilliant animators, the high-level scientific rigor of understanding of mind and the mind control and the arts, and they're bringing it all together. And this is a very mature adult movie. But also, too, and this is another thing that Adam brought up again, this is a great animation. You want to expand on this, how this may somehow be connected to...
I just kind of lump this film in with the greats, Ralph Bakshi, Studio Ghibli, Hayao Miyazaki, who did Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, where there's a lot of, fantastic environments and ideas and creatures, and even the buildings are weird. They're walking around. They're flying around in the sky. So I see there's also a Studio Ghibli focus here, which again, you're talking about the very top notch game. There is no better animation than Studio Ghibli and Ralph Bakshi. They're the top two.
I think Disney bought out all this stuff, all these animations, the Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away. I think Disney bought it because they knew it was a gold mine, not from just an economic standpoint. The royalties and the caliber of the material is so high. Of course, it's basically waiting to be snatched up. And Disney, I think, purchased all this.
Well, Princess Mononoke is really, it's not on our list to review, but it's one of my favorite films of all time. I have a strange list of top 10, but Mononoke is on it.
Oh, it's a classic. I love it too. I went to see it in the movies last year, and so I feel the same way. You know, that's the reason why I love our channel, and we are the Cybo Men, because we're going to break stuff down and connect things that you probably have never heard anywhere else on the internet the way that we're doing it. And so, getting back to the movie, here's an example of Dylan Trueliner. He's trying to explain to Robin, after bringing her to this garden city in New York City, this garden environment, that he was consuming Greek mythology, and he's a half man, half god, and he turns into a god man. Then he turns into a Red Bull, and he says, "I impregnated one of Zeus's daughters." And all of a sudden, he's outside, and there's a woman, and
yes,
he takes her.
He's basically having sex with everything.
Yeah, and it's so amazing that he's walking on water. You see how he went from land to water, but he's somehow walking on water?
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to point out that you mentioned taurine as part of the bull, some sort of synthetic molecule off of bulls, maybe hormones or energy. You have in the energy drinks. Well, to take the game even further down the rabbit hole, Aldebaran's sun is actually the bull's eye of the Taurus constellation, right?
Wow.
It's a giant red star. It's part of the Taurus constellation, known as the bull's eye, due to its position in the heavens. As the star of illumination, it is also known as the way of spiritual enlightenment, which the mediums of Vril desperately sought. Now, the Vril is interconnected with the Nazi movement, okay? Now, a lot of cults worship different mythological creatures and things, and ultimately it all comes down to astrotheology, and you're after worshiping the planets. And so this is just an example of how this red star, the eye of the Taurus constellation, is. Look how big the star is. So,
wow, that's a big boy.
Yeah, it's huge. That's compared to our sun, supposedly.
Huh.
And so it wouldn't surprise me that Hollywood knows about it. So they made movies for children. I love this movie when it came out, and it has the Red Bull, and it's about power, and it's about control, and it's about taking over, and it's about sex and getting that power. But it's also the same thing when you drink a Red Bull. And it's also the same thing that the Chicago chose as this logo for its basketball team. They sure won a lot. Huh. And so, back to the movie itself, she's decides that she wants to, now she's, been told everything by Dylan. She's been brought to the city as this long journey that they're on. She decides that she wants to find her son. She sees the doctor, and she says she chooses Usher syndrome type 2, and she's given a capsule to go find her son and to experience that thing what her son Aaron has, going blind and deaf. And so she inhales, she takes off with Dylan, and a nice song comes on, and they're looking and looking, and they land. And there's this community, a very strange community, and Dylan's telling her, hey, somewhere out there is Sarah, her daughter. And if you see this poll here, this strange poll with the children, you pointed that out, Adam. Did you want to talk about that a bit, or?
Yeah, what's this here? This is the maypole, right? They're dancing around this. I forget exactly what was the point I was making about it. I had a good one yesterday too that we talked about on the phone, but now I'm forgetting what it was. Sorry.
Well, we both know that it's interconnected with communism. The communism has adopted this pagan ritual and made it, they try to adopt it. And so there's a hint of communism embedded in the mythology of paganism, and there's a connection with communism. So this is one of the things that people would never see in the movie. I sure wouldn't have seen it in the movie theater if I'd seen it. So I wouldn't have been able to pick. It's too quick. There's too much
Mm.
happening.
And I think it was this image that made me think of the Hieronymus Bosch connection, because when you see all those people frolicking and gallivanting around the maypole, there's a couple Hieronymus Bosch paintings that have a eerily similar look and feel to it.
Absolutely. And I think the May Day is the first day that they,
Right.
came up with the 8-hour workday. And so May Day is also in the military. It's like
Hmm.
it's Maypole, May Day. There's a connection. All this again. This is not designed to explain everything about communism. It's just to help you see that the masters who are involved in putting and editing and producing this movie, they know about all this stuff, and they impregnate the symbolism in all the frames. Your mind sees it but doesn't know what to do with it. And so television, radio, newspapers, magazines, the internet, your iPad, your iPhone is there to build on these impregnations of symbols and ideological things that the UN wants, the Pope wants, the royalty wants, your masters, your slave masters want. And so they put it in the movie, and so here they are, Dylan and Robin, and he's explaining to her that Sarah is a naturalist, and she's happy, and she's one of the only people left bringing children into the world, which I found that sort of sad, but I think that's where depopulation is going. I mean, that's what the UN wants. They want a depopulation. They want sustainable development. The only way to sustain is to drop off about 6 or 7 billion people in the next 100 years. And one of the easiest ways to do that is through drugs, right? They get you drugs. They sexually abuse you with Hollywood sex abuse scandals and pedophilia in the Vatican. So that's how you keep everybody scared and in fear and in shame. And then you add drugs in there and you add mind control, psychological techniques. Well, you're going to have a huge drop off in the population. That's why throughout the movie, she's looking out and there's like a vast desolation. And here is one of the few kind moments where Dylan finds a kite, her son's kite. They fly together and it blows up. It somehow connects with this plane and explodes. This part I actually laughed because this is typical Hollywood. You tell me if you agree with it or not. Everything blows up and they decide to have sex, coitus, Congress. Maybe that's what it is. This is a genuine Congress moment in the movie.
Yeah, but it's not, it's also super trippy. It's like, what are these weird plants or, appendages growing out of her? And yeah, it's very, okay. So this is an example too of your classic sort of Ralph Bakshian animation in that, sex is part of this. Ralph Bakshi wanted to show, animated people having sex because he wanted to take away the, essentially the monopoly of thought, the paradigm monopoly that Disney had over animation. So I love the fact that they do the sex in this, and it's actually like, I don't know, pretty graphic in a way. They've got the breast movement and the rhythmic undulation, and so this is fantastic animated film. It's a rare breed. This one.
Well, it's just like the definition that you and I talked about in the beginning from Merriam-Webster's dictionary, not your supposition or my wild guess. It's Congress is coming together with rhythmic movements. It's also coitus, and coitus is related to man and woman coming together with rhythmic movements, and it's also to connect it to orgasm. And so this movie is the Congress is about sex abuse, choice, free will, and do we even have free choice or free will? And again, this is all hallucination. So boom, goes to the next scene. It doesn't make sense. Well, it's because it's a hallucination. She's all of a sudden the next scene, she's in a restaurant with him. They're no longer in some exploding field making love. Then they're eating dinner when Michael Jackson is serving him. Maybe he's a digitized character too. Maybe we'll find that out.
Well, one thing I just want to mention, because it is on my mind, and it occurred to me when we were looking at this past scene where they're having coitus in front of the explosion, is that there's a David Cronenberg film called Crash. And in that movie, these people have this sexy kink fetish for having sex at the scene of car accidents where people would be maimed or killed, or they even do it like while they witness a car crash and they go have sex right while these people are like struggling to not die. It's just this crazy morbid film, but it just explores the subject of this sexual fetish where people like to perform a sexual act while other people have been, injured or a tragedy has occurred. So in this movie, they I know it's kind of funny when you think about, look at Hollywood. There's the fire and the flames. It's so hot. They got to have sex because it's just so hot. Well, it's actually what turned them on was the fact that there was a huge explosion with a plane. You have to assume that people were on that plane. So it's actually a very sick, perverse scene.
Yeah. And the other thing too about this is that I think if I had to sum up is ritual sacrifice. Earlier when we were talking in part 1 about how the Vatican may be influenced by satanic rituals and Satanism and devil worship and all that. Well, there's child sacrifice, and it's not just sexual predators, it's not just pedophilia. They actually do sacrifices. So when something is sacrificed, doesn't matter if it's a child, a man, a woman. When something is sacrificed, destroyed, there's a ritual sacrifice. So this is, I would say, probably an expression of ritual sacrifice of a demonic nature where you revel in the death and destruction of something else. That's why the word abuse, I think the whole human family is being abused. And the ones who have all the money, they own all the land, they have all the goodies in life, and you're stuck with your job. You can barely make ends meet. You have 2 jobs, your old student debt and all this stuff. They're doing ritual sacrifice. They're sacrificing you so that they don't have to feel pain or suffering. And this is very sad. And just like in this part of the movie, Robin's asking Dylan, says, hey, what if I don't want to take part in this chemical party? Then Dylan's like, look, you'll realize very soon that you can't, because you won't be part of this world. And he says, and where will I? And then she's like, well, where will I be? And he says, look, on the other side. And what's on the other side is truth. That's what's on the other side. What's on the other side, Dylan? And it's truth. And who's on the other side? And he's explaining, he says, it's people who haven't crossed over. He says, well, then send me there and I'll tell you what it's like. And he's like, no.
One thing I noticed, Jeffrey, that I think you'll appreciate, especially on this slide right here where we're talking about coming back from death. Well, look at the color of her dress.
Yeah, it's like a funeral.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So she's gone from wearing blue and green and purple, and each was symbolic. And now, of course, clearly the black dress is symbolizes death. So I guess I'm just saying that because it just supports what we were saying earlier about the fact that when she's wearing purple, it meant something, and when she's wearing blue, it meant something. Because I mean, this one's clear as day.
Yeah, it's a great catch. Great catch. And and then she's asking him, do you have any way to send me there? And he says, yes. And see the pill on his neck? That's it. And so basically, it's not a chemical cocktail, but it deletes all the chemical influences in a second, and then the truth comes right out. But it's not the pill on his neck. It's strangely out of his mouth. It's a tooth. And it's like he pulls this pill out of his teeth or his mouth, and he says it's like the cyanide capsules the Nazis had in case of surrender. So when you take a suicide pill, you die, but everything's inverted in this world. Instead of really dying, you die out and you leave the artificial world to go back to the real world. That's why he says it's like coming back from death. And he was saying it's my compensation from the Miramount Nagasaki Corporation, and that's what I asked from them for after 20 years of work. And she's like, look, I want it. And he's like, look, the capsule's only strong enough for one person. It's your choice, Robin. And I do love you. And she takes the pill out of his hand without saying a word. And she says, I love you too. And says, promise me that you're not going to look at me, the real me. Promise me you'll remember me this way. And she says, I promise. And so all of a sudden, this really, really got to me, this scene, on an emotional level. I don't like talking about that because this is a movie analysis. But movies do provoke emotional response. But I was really weirded out by this, where she's taking the pill and she sees the security guard. Remember how he said, we'll see you again? Well, there it is. And so here are the people who are imagining what they think they want to be instead of who they are. And as the pill takes effect, now you get to see them for who they really are.
Yes. No, this is crazy, this part here. It's like this restaurant where they're eating and they're having, there's a band playing and all that stuff. Well, these people out here, these people, these are like the people waiting to get inside the restaurant. You know what I mean? And these people are like, there's a giant lineup, a never ending lineup of these people. So all these people, these poor bums, and, they have nothing. So they're waiting in line to go into that utopia, right? They have so little that they think, going into a drug-filled world where they can be whoever they want is a fantastic offering, and they're 100% willing to take it. And isn't that just what they're, what they would love to have, right? It's like these people are in line for the new iPhone, right? Well, that's what it is today. But when they introduce this new drug, this new chemical that they've synthesized that, creates free will or whatever it is, and they'll sell it to you, and people will line up to buy it. And so, pardon me, it's a bit of a complete shocker for Robin Wright when she gets out here, because she's like, oh my gosh, there's all this lineup of people, and they're all trying to get into that horrible world which I just escaped at. There was only one hope in the world for her to get out, but she made it. And then, of course, she sees this woman lying on the ground. And what this woman is, she works for Miramax, and she's like a chemical, not an engineer, but like someone who just disperses it. She probably manages the machine and feeds the chemicals into the machine that pumps it into the Miramax world, Abrahama. But I guess she had like an accident at work or something. So she has been exposed to too much of it, and she's just lying there by herself, and just, I guess you can see this canister that's next to her, and it's some creepy chemical. And she says, are there any doctors in this world? And she says, yeah, up there. So in this scene here, in this next picture that you had up, there's these blimps in the sky, and that's where like all the rich people live, you know, but everybody else is down here on this like slums where you're just begging to get into Abrahama because there's nothing in this world. You're not in that upper world, you know, and this is what has happened to society in the 20 years that Robin Wright was, you know, or maybe it was 27 years or whatever. Who knows at this point? But she's been out of this world for a long time. And now they have this like split civilization, you know, the haves and the have-nots. You want to talk about communism? Well, this is a communist society right here that Robin Wright emerges into.
That's it. And the other thing, too, is that because when she signed the contract to sell her image and her likeness, Jeff Green, the director of Miramount, said to her, I don't need you. I need the image of you. That's what I want to own. I want to own your image. So what's happened is society has collapsed. This is what's coming for humanity very soon. A major, major collapse economically, sociologically, medically, all this stuff. And the reason why is because as roboticism takes hold and as AI continues to build, more and more jobs are going to be automated. And as this becomes more and more automated, your person, and I grew up and you grew up and we all grew up saying, what do you do? Well, I work as an engineer. I work as a hygiene management. I work as a accountant. Well, when everything is automated, you have nothing to offer. So there's nothing left. So they give the poor people have nothing because the elite don't need 8 billion people. That's why they want to depopulate the world down to around 500 million with the Georgia Guidestones. In Georgia, you should look that up, Georgia Guidestones. They want to bring the world into some sort of cohabitation with a maximum population of 500 million. The only way to get rid of everybody peacefully without there being chaos in the streets and war is to dope everybody up. Since you have nothing to offer, right? Women don't like to go out with bums under the street. They want to know if the guy's got his act together, if he has a job, a career, an education. And so that's how the family and relationships and humanity and the social fabric works today. But that's all been removed and replaced with AI and robotics. And so nobody has any real value. And so the only thing that's left to occupy them until they're gone is to hallucinate. And so they're given their little treat, the little doggy treat, until they're gone. And so that's what's coming for the human family, in my humble opinion. So she finally takes her trip through Los Angeles, and she finally finds the Miramount studio here, and she sees the Cody kite, and there's blimps up there. She's, like you said, Adam, she takes the kite in the basket all the way up to the blimp. Mm-hmm. She sees these people, and she's all disheveled, and everybody is okay. And she finally asks, what she asked the woman who was contaminated in the orange suit, the African woman, are there still doctors? And she's guided to this scene where she finally finds Dr. Barker, who never crossed over, and they meet years later unexpectedly. Tears, and she's telling him, I knew you'd never cross over to the other side. And he's telling her, look, don't be so impressed. Being here on this side of the truth is not so brave. You know, Robin, nothing has really changed, has it? Once we've just masked the truth, which is happening today, with antidepressants, drugs that conceal and basically lie to you. It artificially makes you happy, and you never face the problem. You never find out, why is it that I feel this way? Why is there so much pressure? Why is society not working out? How come there's so many cultural conflicts? And there's a migration crisis, all financed and run by the United Nations to make sure that their Agenda 2030 finally comes through, and there's a collapse around the world. How's this, like, what is this all about? And so he's explained that, but now instead of chemicals that lie to you, like antidepressants, we reinvent the truth through chemistry. And he's just saying, look, the only choice that's left, Robin, in this world is between, and there's not such a big difference, is that the drugs have just got better, much, much better, And then here's the part where she says, and is there a choice? No choice. It says the only choice is between waiting for death here in this filth of truth or hallucinating over there.
Hmm.
And maybe it's better over there to dream. And I just, here's something that I want to mention too, that there's actually a TED talk about this gentleman named Anil Seth, and he's explaining that your brain hallucinates your consciousness, your conscious reality. And so this is legitimate science, legitimate material. It's not just Adam and I just giving a random opinion. And Adam, I want you to talk about this because you're the one who brought this to my attention.
Hmm. Yeah, well, this article came out just a couple of days ago, and I saw it, and then I never, it's right up my alley, and I should have just bookmarked it, but I didn't at the time. And then we were talking about something before the show, and of course, this idea of these. Yeah, how many episodes are there of Black Mirror or Electric Dreams, or how many movies are there about like fake memories and people say, well, what a fantastically fictional idea. Well, no. There's lots of military experiments going on around memory and creating them. Storing them, whatever, defining them. Now, of course, apparently, here it is. They've already created a successful artificial one. Like they didn't take my memory and then go put it into a computer or on a disk. No, they created a completely fake artificial memory that no human ever had. This was all out of some computing software, and they basically have it now. So here we go again, right? 2019, by about 2029, we should be at the technological singularity, according to Ray Kurzweil. And this is just, the pathway that we're watching as we go down the path. Now, this is where we're seeing this article in the rearview mirror. Okay. They only put the article out when it's already done. It's already done. It's in the past. So concepts like 5G and wetware, PCI, brain computer interfaces, and fake memories or human monkey chimeras, that's all true. It's all real. And it's already it's not just real, it's in the past. So where are we headed here? I think that it'll be completely not where they intended to be by 2030. But what you do is you kind of ballpark it, right? It's like what's that sport where you roll the ball and you try to get it close. It's like lawn bowling or whatever. You just try to get it close to the other ball. It doesn't have to be exactly there, but it's close. So, by 2029, whether or not we have human brains inside of cybernetic bodies, well, nobody's going to know until we get there, but it should be actually pretty darn close.
You're right. And, the thing is that the next 10 years of our lives, right now, it's the present for me and you and all the listenership who listens to this. But the next 10 years, so 2019, right now, August 30th, 2019, which is when we're doing this, until the end of 2030, just like on the back of the license plate in Robin Wright's car, it says December 2030 on the plate. By the time we revisit this material, the world will have changed so much. It'll be so drastic. It'll be so severe. It'll be so intense. It'll be so overwhelming that, like you said, Adam, this technology has been perfected many decades ago. There's a book, and unfortunately you won't be able to find it easily through a Google or a DuckDuckGo or a Bing search. I think it's called The Immortalist. And it has a red cover, So I remember, and it was talking about in the 70s, they were able to transfer pieces of brain with specific memories of one mouse to the other. And it was a scientific confirmation that memory transfer was successful and completed and done in the 70s. And so I was born in the mid 70s. That means they perfected memory transfer long before I was born. So if they perfected it in mice in the 70s, what that means is that they've been working on it for at least 4 to 7 decades before as a minimum. And now they're ready to put it in the public because it's all perfected. But now they have to get everybody to realize what it is. So this artificial memory, this has been going on for a long time. There's a billboard in I don't know if it's New York City, but there's a billboard, there's an article in there that says that if you get within a certain vicinity of this billboard, it projects thoughts wirelessly into your brain.
Oh, wow.
And everybody should go look it up. It's like the mind control billboard, or the billboard that puts thoughts in your mind. And people should look this up because this is an artificial memory, just like you brought up here today.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that, because what's kind of significant about that particular article is that, it's only one flavor of technology. They can make memories, they can erase your memories, they can project thoughts out of a billboard. There's that technology that Samsung has that makes you forget a TV show. So like I say, they can make new ones, they can implant them, they can transfer them around, they can make you forget them, they can create them either in several different technology types, the whole gamut. So this is one of those things where, we've been talking about mind control all night. And, mind control is one of those very special, beautiful little topics where if you bring it up, people are like, you are out of your mind. Well, sorry, we just talked for 3 hours about different technologies that they have. And even movies are mind control. Okay. So yeah, it's real. Now, when you start to talk to people about fake memories, man, they freaking out. They do not believe you. But the fact is, it's true.
They don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, I know. They won't talk to you. Yeah, it's verboten, right? Like, it just cannot possibly be. Yet there's mounds of evidence that it is true, and so one of the most crucial things about free will is that, we have some iota of privacy. Okay. We need to be able to say and or do the things that other people get offended by. And because of privacy, it's sometimes you get away with it, or sometimes it's defensible, but memories are 100% the information that's inside of the brain that we need privacy laws for. Okay. So once a memory isn't even a real thing anymore, memories are also synthetic. Why have privacy?
If you can copyright a synthetic thought, artificial thought, and then you can scan the biological you and have a digital copy of you, then they own you, and they can alter you, and they can modify you as they see fit. Instead of you going to work and being ordered around by your boss, they're just going to take what they need from you, just like Jeff Green took from Robin Wright. They took what they wanted for her, the money making, the Congress part of her, and just leave the empty shell and just go out there. You can never go do any acting anywhere because we own you. That's what's going to come to everybody. And so the people who listen to this material and they say, man, this is outlandish, it's too far out. And the psychology is this, and I had this psychology, so it's not an accusation, it's just a reality that I'm sharing with you. If you don't have a 4-year degree, if you don't have a master's degree, if you don't have a PhD, if you're not recognized by a bank, an institution, and all this stuff, then you mustn't be that important. You mustn't be that good. When it comes to certain parts of your life, the career part, the work part, it's all about status. It's all about your certifications, all that. In reality, everybody's special and everybody's important. And so, but the business world, the fascist environment that we're in, that wants to force world communism on all us and basically eliminate us, they're giving us the sort of the goodie to get rid of us all quick. They're going to dope us up. I mean, look at the highest incarceration rate on earth is in the United States, and it's the bulk of it is drug infractions, and there's opioid crisis, and there's a heroin crisis, and there's this and that crisis with drugs, and so what happens is that people lose their value because they break down, and then they end up on welfare, and then that feeds the communist infrastructure, and it finally leads to the collapse. And so here, Robin Wright, she is an allegory about what you and I are going to be going through very soon, unless people wake up and start figuring out that this isn't just an entertaining movie that you couldn't get through. It's a message for those who want to know.
Well, that's a brilliant way of putting it, that Robin Wright is, as an individual, is an allegory for all of us. And
that's right.
It's worth pointing out at this time, look at Robin in this image. I mean, Robin's a pretty strikingly beautiful person, whether you think she's attractive or not. She certainly is striking looking. And so this whole system that she got into by signing that one last job contract, look what it's done to her. I mean, I know this is all makeup and acting. I get that, but and the clothing doesn't help either. But look at, she went from wearing a beautiful blue dress and having radiant hair and eyes to, wearing worn out clothing. Her hair's thinning, and she's completely aged and withered and broken down. That's the perfect. That's how far they're going, and they're not going any shorter than that. They're going all that way to the part where they can take one of the most stunning, possibly talented, creative, intelligent people in the world and make it come out like that.
And if you think it's just going to be a Hollywood actress, no, it's going to be for me and you. We're going to be handed this forced non-choice that's going to be presented as a choice. It's going to be presented. All you have to do is take it, and you'll be in a fairyland and all this stuff. What's happening is the human family is being collapsed, and it's being collapsed on multiple levels, at multiple sciences, and so here's the end result of what's going to happen to me and you if we're not aware and we don't take action. It doesn't mean you fight the government. It doesn't mean that you do all this stuff. What it means is it's a metaphor. It's a symbolic representation of you. That is you. If you're watching this, that person in the screen right now who's all disheveled and broken down, that is what the masters of the world think of you. And she got the best end of the deal. She got huge amounts of money that she could live off for 20 years. She came back for a second contract. She was the lucky one. Imagine the people who aren't considered fodder for the machine. You know how many actors there are compared to how many people are on the planet? So imagine if you're not a famous actor, you're just a regular guy like me, just goes from one day to the next like everybody else. You're not a superstar. It's going to be 10 times worse. So look how bad she came out of it, and she got the golden deal here. And so she's like saying, look, she's asking the Dr. Barker, what happened to my son? And he waited for you. 19 years he waited for you to come back, and only 6 months ago he crossed over.
Right.
And she's so distraught.
Why not one final piece of torture, right? She missed it by 6 months out of 20 years. And what'd she miss, right? The literal death of her son. Well, I guess he left. Yeah, he basically killed himself, I guess.
Yeah, because basically when you take these hallucinatory drugs, you're no longer you. Your life, how you were when you're 5 years old, what you do in your apartment to keep it clean, or your home clean, or your trailer clean, or whatever you live, all that, and your career and your connections, it's all gone. It's just your imagination now. So who you were doesn't count. So how do you find someone in their imagination? You can't. He's someone else now in the world. The chemical fantasy over on the other side. Basically, there's no way to find Aaron, but you can still go back there, and that's better than waiting for death here. I'll fix you an ampule.
Right. So right here, so this is, we should pause for a second here because this movie's at this point, it's like ramping up, all this has happened. All of a sudden, Robin Wright is back with the doctor there, Dr. Barker. And, she found out about her son, right? Like she just missed it, like the nick of time. And so she's with this doctor, and this doctor's trying to give her some advice about, what we can do now moving forward. Hey, wait, why not take the drugs now, right? They're even better than they've ever been. Well, in the last minute of this film, and this film doesn't stop, okay? It goes to the very last frame of the metaphors, symbology, and the plot going back to different steps in the movie that you didn't even pay attention to, but now it's all coming around. So now look at this is weird part. All of a sudden, there's like a movie set with is that Robin on the screen in the studio there making out with someone who's that? I don't know. And then there's this baby like overlaid on top. It's like, what is going on? I guess what's happening is she took the drugs, right? She took the ampule. So now she's in this she's hallucinating again, I guess. And you see through these quick, there's only a minute left. And, there's another kite, but it's a little different. And there's the sun and then the kite, and all of a sudden it breaks loose and it flies off. And then there's the daughter, and it's almost like how we started off in the film, but now it's animated. So it's totally inverted. And the daughter's waving goodbye, I guess, as she goes to university or whatever. Now here's Robin in the Porsche, right? So in the Porsche, what is she doing? She's driving to Abrahama, and Aaron's watching her and he knows that, she signed the contract. She has to go to Abrahama. He's going to miss her. Right. And then what does he do? He puts on the glasses. Right. And inside the glasses these are the glasses that Robin sees Aaron through at Hotel Abrahama. And then, of course, now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You're right.
Oh, yeah. And then now, as Aaron, who's he going to see? He's going to see Dr. Barker. And what's Dr. Barker going to do? Right? Like he's going to give him the drugs. So the Dr. Barker, he's the nasty guy. He's the bad guy. He's giving the drugs to Robin, totally set her up. And now he's giving the drugs to the son, totally set him up. And he's the ringleader, like in this movie. I kind of realized this last night. I watched it. It's like, wait a second. This doctor guy is like, he's in on the whole thing. There's even a few slides where I think I have them actually. If I can just show my screen for a second. So here's that scene there. And now, it goes to this sort of like, there's Aaron in the scene that we didn't talk about, but he's, watch the movie and try to piece it together yourself. And then here he puts the glasses on after Robin drives away in the Porsche. And then all of a sudden there's this real quick flash to this scene. And now Aaron's up on the screen, and Steve Reeve Bobs and Robin Wright, as far as I can tell, there they are on the stage. So it's flashing back to, so now if you're not confused by now, you should be. It's so, now here's the doctor, Dr. Barker. This all happens in the last 90 seconds of the movie. He's making a deal with that guy that saved her from the overdose and put her in the ice. So he's in on it. He knows that she needs to be frozen. And then all of a sudden, Aaron, like where and how is this coming from? He sees her frozen. And then it cuts to the man lifter, but it's Aaron going up. And this world here, when Robin is in it, it's real life and everybody's glaring at her because she's some bum. But when Aaron goes in, it's animated. Yeah, so we're at the Dr. Barker. And of course, yeah, there it is. So back to your slide. This was a really, I mean, this is it. This is, look how beautiful this scene is. It's gorgeously rendered. There's a lovely white model of the Wright brothers plane. Aaron's there, and it looks like utopia is finally going to be had by poor Robin Wright. But I was confused because you hear her voice and she's calling out, Aaron, Aaron. And that's Aaron standing by the plane. We know that. We saw him land. But if you look in the reflection of that, what do they call those?
A trailer.
Yeah, but that one that's silver and shiny like that, that's called the airliner or the streamliner or something. And you see the reflection of Aaron. So now there's two Aarons, and one of them has the voice of Robin Wright. So
to find her son, she had to become her son. And so the hallucination, that's my suspicion, is that to go back to the hallucination, leave that filthy truth that Dr. Barker was saying instead of waiting to die, to find her peace, she had to become her son to find her son, and then she can, now that she found her, she could be at peace. Mm-hmm. And that's how the movie ends, and that's the Congress. Yeah. This is really something else. One of the things I was really concerned about doing this review is that it's just so long. And I want to thank everybody. If you've made it to this part of the second part of this podcast for the movie review of the Congress, lifting the veil, as you mentioned, Adam, we got a few little trends that we want to mention to everybody, and some thanks to give to those who made such a wonderful contribution to this process. I want to thank special thanks to Jordan Maxwell for consulting on certain aspects of this, and so we want to extend a thanks to him. And if you never heard of Jordan Maxwell, this guy is a living legend. He has a research society. It's very affordable. You can make a donation to him if you want as well. And so he's just amazing, and we're lucky to have some assistance to help us break down this incredible movie.
Yeah.
I also want to thank Max Richter, because his soundtrack that he did to this movie, he deserves, at least from my perspective, a definite mention. And I want to thank you as the listener, because it takes a special caliber mind. It takes and again, the way the system is set up today is to create extreme atrophy in your imagination. But you have been able to overcome that atrophy, and you're willing to explore the depths of Hollywood, international geopolitics, medicine, technology, the singularity, and you're willing to do it with us, Adam and myself. And so we're both grateful for your attention, because you know what? Your time, that's the greatest gift that we can ever receive is someone's time and someone's attention. That's why we feel so welcomed when we're around family or a loved one, because they're paying attention to you. They're giving you their time. So we are grateful for you giving us your precious time and expanding your mind with us. And hopefully you'll see movies in a whole new light. We recommend that you watch the movie again, at this time with new eyes, hopefully with our contributions. Is there any other shout outs or anything like that you'd like to make, Adam?
Yeah, well, just give a dziękuję bardzo to Stanislaw Lem for creating an excellent body of science fiction works that's all about like robots and chemicals and memories, and inspiring this film. I want to thank all the animators that worked on this film, who are never named. You don't get to hear about these people, but they did a masterful job overall. And hey, thanks to Robin Wright for either enjoying making a high piece of art or signing away your soul. so that we could all learn from you. Uh,
That's great. Well, I appreciate that. And here's a little bit of a bonus material. It's not very long. It's actually short. So thanks for being patient with us.
cool.
The last pieces here is stuff that Adam and I saw in the movie. We just want to point out very quickly. Did you see the patterns? And so obviously we've talked about the United Nations, but the cover of the Blu-ray has that color. That's not an accident. It's by design. And also when Aaron visits the doctor, which we didn't show in the beginning of this presentation, but he visits Dr. Barker, and the whole hue, the color hue, is UN blue. You're going to say, well, that's just by chance. No, everything is highly coordinated, highly structured, and it's impregnating the mind that if you go see a doctor, he'll tell you what to do. You can trust him. You can trust what he has to say. He'll tell you what's the right thing to do, just like a priest tells you in your congregation, a pastor, or anybody. So it's like a priest. He's wearing the coats, the robes basically, but it's medical robes. But that color, the UN blue's there, and even it's impregnated on how the mother perceives everything. And for those of you who didn't see it, do you see the picture frame on the desk?
Oh, yeah.
That baby blue picture frame. This is all psychological intelligence, psychiatrists who know and understand every aspect of the mind, how to condition the mind subliminally, product placement, advertising, marketing. Most people didn't see that baby blue picture frame on his desk, not the one on the wall, on his desk. And so there's another pattern that you maybe didn't see. And here's something I wanted to mention that Adam brought up, the Cody kite. What's this all about? Here's all these scenes where you see the Cody kite on the ground, those two ones. And here's Robin flying the kite on her own, and her son's watching. So it's a tender moment between mother and son, and that he gets to see his mother do something. And so here are all the different scenes throughout the movie, animated or in real life, of this Cody kite. And it's just peppered throughout the entire movie. It's symbolic. Again, most people, when you're watching this movie review, you're the upper crust. You're the elite. You're the edge. You're the one who wants to make a breakthrough in your life. And so that's why you're looking for what I will hopefully you'll consider well-positioned, well-researched material and breakdowns. And you're going to see these patterns throughout the entire movie. And did you want to mention anything about this Cody kite? What did you want to add about this?
What a fantastic opportunity to learn. I mean, when you take these movies that sometimes cost tens of millions of dollars, skyrocketing upwards towards sometimes even $100 million, there's so much fantastic research and art that goes into it that if you take the time to treat them seriously like the Cybermen do, hopefully you can learn from us and you can consume your movies a little different. But, the bonus that you get out of putting the little bit of extra work and, treating it serious like we do is that you get to learn all this really cool stuff. And so what I learned was that this kite, super cool, right? It was called the man lifter, and they use it at times of war. So it's this giant, it's a pretty large cart that's capable of lifting a man up off the ground. And in the movie, she climbs into a basket, like a balloon basket, and that basket gets carried up to the blimps in the air by the man lifter kite. It's super cool. Now, I don't think it's super symbolic, but it was just a really cool opportunity to learn about the history of kites. I love kites. I used to fly kites a lot as a kid. So this is a great little tidbit of information to learn.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Again, if you want to look this up, this is the whole point of this. Is you come back to our channel, you can go through this, and maybe if you're in university, or if you're in cinematography, or if you're a researcher or a writer, hopefully there may be something in there for you, and you can pause and rewatch this and share this and subscribe to our channel. Cybermen, subscribe to our channel. But here's one other little bonus. Lousy choices. Who is lousy choices? And so this is all at the beginning of the film about how Robin Wright is crying and she's facing a difficult situation, and she's being accused of lousy choices. But in
Wow.
reality, the lousy choices are because the environment's lousy, and they're making the environment very, very difficult, not only for women but for everybody in Hollywood. It's filled with inequality. Here's Gina Davis uses films to call out Hollywood's gender bias issue. Mila Kunis calls out sexist Hollywood producer an open letter. And and the question is, well, why? This is the New York Times. This is again, this is something an outfit that most people have heard of, the New York Times. And then one of the articles says it's an opinion, of course. Why is Hollywood so liberal? Well, let's explore that. Here's how academics is set up. Liberal tends today in 2019 tends to lean towards more socialist. Now everything's been inverted and twisted and distorted. That's what governments do. Mind control, government. They're governing your mind, and so they what they do to govern your mind, to control your mind, they have to control academics and having a liberal slash socialist communist, and the entertainment industry is mostly liberal, and so are newspapers and print. So when you look at this, you say to yourself, well, that's why everything's leaning towards, demonic or satanic, pedophile, drug abuse, all this stuff. It's liberal. They want to collapse the existing world order for a new world order. And if you want to make a deal in Hollywood, they have an interesting symbol here of a blue door. It's hard to make deals in Hollywood. Usually you're the loser. That's what happened with Robin Wright. She sure lost out. Hollywood deal making, negotiating talent agreements for film, TV, and media. But in that kind of environment, you also have Secrets of the Blue Door, a true story of bringing closure to sexual abuse at a ranch for boys. These are kinds of things that happen not only at ranches, but it happens all over in Hollywood. Sexual abuse and pedophilia is unfortunately rampant. So it's difficult to make a good choice in a sour, bitter, destroyed environment. There's even a movie that came out about it, An Open Secret, about pedophilia. I mean, come on. And if all the Hollywood parties are giving free drugs and the intelligence community is bringing in the drugs into the United States, into Hollywood, and they're letting it flow freely, of course there's going to be problems. Of course there's going to be drug problems and collapses. Well, now they're getting ready to collapse everybody. They're going to get rid of everybody. They're going to copyright you, and that's it. And so one of the last little bonus things is the security guard. Do you remember, Adam, when she goes sees a security guard and he says, yeah, this is a restricted animated zone, and the only way to leave is the next time we meet, is on your way out.
Man, that's a nice hat.
With the eye, all-seeing eye there. That's funny. That's funny. Well, guess what? In the movie, she did take the pill, and when she was just about to convert from animated, there's the security guard. So it was just sort of a little teaser. It's very difficult to see that in the movie in the first try, but we're just pointing it out. And I think this is one of the last bonus points is Pleasure Island and Circe and Pinocchio. So, well, what's the world? How could that be connected? Well, in 1940, one of the biggest budgets of films ever made back in 1940. You got to remember, this is in World War II. Okay? Who has millions of dollars to pencil out one of the greatest animation classics ever created at the time? Well, in this movie, there's a place called Pleasure Island where a scoundrel takes Pinocchio, who's a fake person, but he wants to become real. Everything's inverted in this whole strange, bizarro world. Takes him to where? Pleasure Island. And when you become filled with pleasure and you don't do anything except just pleasure yourself, you end up becoming debauched and debased, and all the children end up becoming animals. They become jackasses. And so he's panicking because he gave in to temptation and he went to Pleasure Island, and Disney's telling you that in this movie. And they have places in real life that are replicating this entire thing. And if you think it's just at Disney World, There's an entire network of places all over the world that they capture your attention. Now, here, this is innocent. People go here and have fun. I've been to Six Flags. Here's one in Montreal. It's basically the Six Flags in Montreal in Quebec, Canada. And so here's an example of how they capture your attention all day long, and you spend money frivolously on cotton candy and hot dogs or whatever else it is, alcohol, and you sort of lose yourself for the day. But there's a network of internationalists that are hiding behind the scenes that are putting Ferris wheels around the world in the city, even if there's no carnival or there's no pleasure island or there's no amusement park. They're putting Ferris wheels all over in major cities around the world. Here's the one in Montreal. And the way to control everybody in this new pleasure island that's going to be everywhere is going to be 5G. So you'll be entertained in your smartphone, your iPad. You can watch movies. You can download stuff instantly. It's going to be the trick of the century. It's going to kill everybody, but you're going to be entertained as you die. And infertility and all that stuff. And it's all hidden. It's part of a hidden global infrastructure. And you see the UN blue? That's not by chance. That's not by chance. It's, here's another company that it looks very sinister, this logo, but that is genuinely their logo, the HIT Global Corporation. And it's interconnected with MIST. AI is in the air. Just like in the Congress, you can breathe in and then hallucinate. Well, with AI may be able to do that with chemicals in the air. Just like when you go to a casino, you stay awake because they pump oxygen and other compounds in the air to keep you awake and alert. And whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, as the technological singularity explodes, they may be able to merge AI, wireless, chemistry, and everything. You might even be able to breathe in your hallucination. And we're going to lock you down because we own you. We've copywritten you. And so we're going to put you on the blockchain. And this is very, very interesting material that everybody can go through. And I did a search on 5G and DuckDuckGo. And if you notice that 5G is primarily baby blue, it's UN blue. That's what they want you to see. They don't want you to understand. They just want you to see it. They're here to control your mind. You're not going to control their mind. They're going to control your mind. Same thing with a Google search and images. So the pattern's there. And who's been tricking you since day one? They've been using the psychology and the mythological understanding and historical understanding of the human mind, but also the mythology of Circe. Who is Circe? She's basically a Greek goddess of magic and enchantment and a sorceress. But Circe was renowned for her vast knowledge of potions and magic wands. And that's the same magic wand that they're waving over you in Hollywood, and it's made out of a holly tree. Thank you, Jordan Maxwell. And as a final note, Adam, and I want to get your take on it, I don't know if you feel the same way about Pinocchio and all this stuff, but this is an actual legitimate network operating around the world that has built a large chunk of this digital hallucination that we're all going to be facing, whether you like it or not. We don't really have a choice. 5G is rolling out. Drugs, crimes, and drug addiction is just everywhere. But the technological singularity, this is a legitimate network that's been pumping out this hallucination that's going to end the bulk of humanity's existence within the next 100 years. It's called Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I'm not blaming the professors or the students. The institution is using the students and the professors to get the technological edge, the corporate edge, the fascias, all those fascias in front. But you think it's just in Massachusetts? No, it's the Tokyo Institute of Technology. It's the Korean Institute of Technology. It's the Beijing Institute of Technology. Where does this all come from? Well, what's this? This looks like the Vatican Bank. It's the Institute of Religion, the IOR. Some people call it the Vatican Bank. My suspicion is that they're financing and they set up a network of technological institutions. The Vatican did. And so now they have direct access to all the latest and greatest stuff so that they can control the world. And it's their institutions, but people don't know that. So that's basically it. Do you have any final comments there, Adam?
I just want to say, please watch this movie, okay? And send it to your friends and get them to watch it. And, share this video with them if they are interested in the movie, but they don't understand what's going on. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, or, maybe it's next year. Maybe by the time you stumble across this, it's, I don't know, 2025, 2030, whatever. If you're interested in what's going on in the world and how all of it has basically already been revealed to us as far as who's running the show, what their plan is, watch this movie, enjoy it, share it. Share this video so people can understand what's going on. You don't spend $30 million and, gather together all of these brilliant artists and scientists and researchers to make something like this for nothing. This has insane cultural value. Have fun and expect things to kind of speed up over the next 10 years as we approach the year 2030. And I myself am extremely looking forward to watching this video again in 2030, just to see if we were right.
Yeah, I hope we're wrong. Honestly, I hope we're wrong. I'm not saying it to belittle. I don't want to be right about depopulation and the whole human family degrading so bad. And so part of the advantage of movie reviews is to enjoy the movie, enjoy learning, and we're reaching out to sort of an upper crust mind, and we're privileged to have your attention. And the good news is that have fun as much as you can while you're alive right now. Do the best you can. Learn as much as you can. Thank you for being with us this evening in part 2 of the review of the unveiling of the Congress. Our next review is The Island from 2005. Please subscribe to our channel, Cyboman, and click on the thumbs up. Leave a comment if you really or a question if you have any. We'll do our best to get to you. And we promise you'll never see movies the same way. And here's a sort of a sneak peek of the next movie that we're going to be reviewing. So on that note, I'm going to sign off. Is there anything else you're going to say you want to add, Adam?
No, I think we accomplished it. We did it. We finally reviewed the Congress. It only took 3.5 hours and, I don't know, a month worth of research. So
yeah,
you're welcome, everybody. I hope you enjoy this free content.
Yeah, enjoy, and if you have any comments, let us know. Get in touch with us. Take care, and thanks again.
Bye.